Cattle Show.
What's happening on this Thursday night? And I know I said that we would start at about 9:40, but might as well start a couple of minutes early because I'm just sitting here ready to vent about this basketball game. Before the game, I talked about this series, right? I talked about the difference behind the three-point line. If the Celtics are going to win this series, and if they can win it easily, it's make threes and defend the three-point line. That's how you win this series. That's how you cruise like they cruised in game one. You got to make your threes, and you have to defend the three. And before this game, I was wondering, are we going to see a Celtics team that learned from game two against Miami? And you go back to that Miami series, you win game one, game two, you don't shoot well. The other team shoots very well from three. You lose your energy, you lose your intensity, and you end up losing at home. And we saw the same exact thing happen tonight with the Celtics against the Cavs. This is an embarrassing final score, 118-94, an inexcusable game from the Celtics. And let me start here. I'm not talking about the shots. I'm not even talking about the missed threes. I actually think the vast majority of the threes that the Celtics took tonight were good shots. We'll get the numbers later. But the C's missed a ton of wide open threes. We're talking wide open threes in the corner. Horford missed 3 or 4 wide open threes. Derek White missed 3 or 4 wide open threes. Jaylen Brown missed 3 or 4 wide open threes. It wasn't the quality of the three-point shots. There are going to be nights like this. There are going to be nights that even when you create a good shot, you just can't throw it in the ocean. That is not my problem. My problem is about other things that we saw tonight. My problem is that the fact, even though I don't believe this will happen at any point the rest of this series, and I believe the Celtics will make their threes, and I believe they will defend the three-point line better than they did tonight at certain points. I believe that with every essence of my being. The other stuff is what bothers me. The lack of intensity and urgency in the second half. How many times have we seen this team start a second half like a puddle? We saw it again tonight. At halftime, you're tied. I think it was 54-54. You need to come out in that third quarter with the necessary energy, the necessary intensity, the necessary urgency to put the pressure on Cleveland. And the Celtics again came out in the third quarter, waltzing through the action. How many times have we seen this? How many times have we seen this team go out there in the third quarter like they don't care? And we saw some of that again tonight. We saw that third quarter lack of energy and effort and urgency. And I tweeted this at halftime. Come out and play with pace. Come out and play with some urgency. And they failed to do so. They let Cleveland hang around by getting dominated in the paint in the first half. Mitchell did nothing in the first half. Garland did nothing in the first half. The Celtics had to know. I knew. You knew. Everybody in that arena knew that Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland were going to come out shooting in that third quarter. And the C's just let it happen. Miscommunication at the top of the perimeter. Allowing guys off of screens to get wide open looks. That's the most annoying thing about tonight's game. To go along with a couple of other things. It's not the fact that they missed wide open shots. I mean, that's annoying, but their offense was creating wide open looks. It was the lack of the energy. It was the lack of the purpose that this team had in that second half. And that's inexcusable. You can excuse a bad shooting night. It happens to every team in the league. It happens at least once, if not twice, if not more times in the playoffs. You can excuse a bad shooting night if you're doing the proper things offensively. If you are finding the open man and you're missing wide open shots, you can understand that. What I can't understand and what I have to vent about is the lack of purpose that this team played with tonight in the second half. You had a chance. After not playing great in the first half and missing plenty of shots in the first 24, you had a chance to come out in front of your home crowd shut the door in the third quarter, and make a statement. And instead, you rolled over. You rolled over and you died. That's what bothers me. You know what else bothers me? Again, you can excuse the missed threes. A lot of those shots were open, if not wide ass open. I can understand that. But what bothers me, and I've said this team, even though they're getting good threes, when the threes aren't falling, they start to press a little bit and they start to take even more threes. And I know some people will say it's the math, and I understand the math. And I'm not saying to never go back to the three. But when you don't have it going from three-point land, do something else. You're going to have to, up your defensive intensity to try to create turnovers and maybe get some easy buckets in the fast break and transition. How about posting up Jason Tatum every once in a while? They did that twice in the second half, and it worked pretty well. How about trying to post Drew Holiday? Didn't see that once. So every once in a while, even though you're getting great looks from three, they're not falling. It's not your night at that point. Do something different to get your offense going. And it's the same stuff over and over and over again. And people will disagree with this at times, and that's fine. But this team, we talked about this statistic. I talked about this statistic earlier today. It was a fantastic job. It was a fantastic job from, I think it's Justin. I got to find the notes, but it was a great job. The Celtics were like 10 and 12 when they made the same amount of threes or fewer threes than the opposition. And tonight we saw it again. It played out. The Celtics, 8 of 35 from three. Just a terrible night. They made 8 threes. Cleveland made 13 threes. The Celtics are below 500 when the opposition makes the same or more threes than they do. And that's what the numbers tell you. And that's what we saw tonight, is a failure to adapt, a failure to do something, to pivot to something else, at least for a couple of minutes. Here's the stat. Justin Turpin from WEEI, and I shared this earlier today on the podcast that we did at 11 a.m. that we do every Monday through Friday. And by the way, this is an emergency podcast after that bad game from the C's. Give us that thumbs up, subscribe. Don't forget to like and subscribe as you watch. That's how we build this community and get this podcast out to other Celtics fans so we can all vent together. Justin Turpin from WEEI, he tweeted this out, and I had this morning on the pod. The Celtics this year, the Celtics are 59-7. 59-7 when making the same number or more threes as their opponents. So it's actually making the same or more. They're 59-7. The Celtics are now 10-13 when they make fewer threes than the opposition. And we're just going to continue to run our stuff, and hopefully we turn things around, and hopefully we make some threes. And if we make some threes, the offense will get rolling. I would like to see them adjust and pivot a little bit. And I understand that it's tougher to do so without Kristaps Porzingis. And this is why Porzingis is very important, because when you're having these stretches, even if you're getting open threes and you're missing those open threes, you can get the ball to Porzingis, and Porzingis will make something happen 18 feet and in. I understand that. But you have bigger wings and bigger guards than they have. And I don't quite understand why you're not trying to post up Jaylen Brown or Drew Holiday, or posting up Tatum a little bit more than you are, trying to get switches and get Horford down there in the paint to get an easy look. Take a couple of trips and get away from what you've been doing, because it's not working in that moment. And the Celtics, they get stuck in this trap of, we're just going to shoot out of this. And if they shoot out of it, fantastic, they win. If they don't shoot out of it, they end up losing like they lost tonight. It's a failure to find another route offensively and then getting back to your three-point strategy. I understand the math. I get it. But it is the failure to pivot at a certain point and then circle back to what you want to do. And here's the other thing about when the Celtics are missing their threes, and we saw this all night long, really. Defense. Their defense stinks way too often when they're missing threes. Their defensive intensity falls off of a cliff. Their attention to detail falls off of a cliff. Their urgency on that side of the floor, on that end of the floor, their urgency takes a precipitous drop when they're missing threes. We see it time and time and time again. They miss a three, they fail to get back. They miss a three, they don't communicate. They don't communicate well, they give up an open three. We've seen this. So it's not the fact that they missed threes. I'll say it again for the people that are just joining us. I think a lot of the shots that the Celtics got tonight were very good shots from three. They missed a number of wide open looks, but it is how they allow missing threes to impact the rest of their game, to impact their attitude, their approach, their effort at times, their energy. If they're knocking down threes, they're running around. It's the OK Corral. Pew, 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 pew. We're shooting threes and we're loving threes. And now we're gonna make sure that we're attacking on the perimeter defensively. We're closing out correctly. We're communicating. We're on a string. All of those things. We're not getting beat by backdoor cuts. When they're making threes, their energy is up. Their focus is up. Their effort is up. And they are almost unbeatable. That's why you have that stat of being 59-7 when they make the same amount of threes or more threes in their opposition. That's why. It's not just because they're making threes. It's because the threes impact the rest of their game. When they're making them, they play like an absolute monster most of the time. But when they miss those threes, man, shoulders drop, defense suffers, attention to detail and focus is gone, intensity is lost, energy is shot. We've seen it so many times with this team, and that's what is annoying. You've got to grind through the playoffs. They know that. They've been in the playoffs enough. They've made enough deep runs. They understand Drew Holiday won a championship. We know Tatum and Horford and White and Brown, the runs that those guys have made. They understand. And what is really irritating, what really frustrates me, and I'm sure it frustrates all of you, is when they come out after a game one and Jaylen Brown says everything that he should say. They have majored in saying the right thing after playoff game wins, right? They have majored in saying the right thing. Jaylen Brown came out after game one and said, we just got to play the right way. Give me the gist. As long as we defend the three, as long as we play the right way, we're going to be tough to beat. And I agree with that. I don't think they lose this series, but it's frustrating that they say that, but they allow themselves to crawl back into the same holes when they're missing shots. You have to grind it out. If you're not making threes, you know what that means? You've got to play better defense. If you're not making threes, you have to give the extra effort to take the threes away from the other team. You can't give up offensive rebounds. What the hell was going on with the glass tonight again? I mean, we saw multiple possessions where the Cavaliers are getting offensive rebounds multiple times. Inexcusable. In a playoff game at home, you are the more athletic team. You are the bigger team. You're the more physical team. You can't be giving up multiple offensive rebounds on multiple trips. That's a joke. There was one stretch, and I know you know what I'm talking about. There was one stretch where the rebound goes off the glass, it hits the floor, and Tatum's standing there, and Tatum, there's three Celtics, and they're all looking at each other. Do you want to get it? You want to get it? I don't know. Do you want to get it? Do you want to get it? I thought you were going to get it. And the crowd's booing. Somebody get it. They should be diving for basketballs, fighting for rebounds, navigating screens, being aggressive on the closeouts, contesting jump shots. They should be scratching and clawing and fighting when they're not making threes. They do the exact opposite. When they don't see that ball go through the bucket, they're a completely different team. And that's what is annoying. That's what is frustrating. Because you cannot control sometimes missing open shots, but you sure as hell can control your intensity, your effort, your energy, your urgency. You can do that. Defense As long as you are athletically gifted, defense is effort. Defense is caring. And they don't see that ball go through the bucket, they're shattered. And all of a sudden, they're giving up fast breaks. They're giving up wide open shots. They're not rebounding the ball. That's what's annoying. 118-94, the Cleveland Cavaliers blow out the Celtics in Game 2 at TD Garden. Something else that's annoying is that this team is incapable of putting together a stretch of wins at home in the postseason. I don't understand it. It's inexcusable. I can't even define why that is. There is no explanation for that other than maybe they just take it for granted. This team was impeccable at home all regular season. They were fantastic all year at home. You get to the playoffs, and here we are again. Lost Game 2 against Miami, lost Game 2 tonight. Why can't they consistently put the foot on the throat at home? It's this idea of letting your foot off the gas, letting go of the rope, and that's what they do. And that's why I am in the camp. I've been saying this all year long. I am not going to believe that this team is championship material until they win the damn championship, until they show me, until they prove it. Because I see a lot of the same things we've seen in past years at certain times with this team. I'm not asking for perfection. Don't get it twisted. But you play better teams as you go along in the playoffs. And you can't allow some of these performances against, better teams. Cleveland is not good right now. Outside of Donovan Mitchell, this team can't score unless you allow them to score. And that's what we saw tonight. No Jared Allen. You blew him out in Game 1, and then you miss shots, and there it is. You throw your hands up, and it is what it is. I mean, how can you believe in this team until they actually do it? I'd love to be sitting here and saying, yes, yes, yes. And again, I think that they're going to win this series. I'm pretty confident if they stay healthy, they will win this series. I would not be surprised if we see the same damn thing that we saw against Miami. A terrible Game 2, win both in Cleveland, back and close it out in 5. I wouldn't be surprised by that. But before this series began, I picked the Celtics in 6. Everybody else was picking the Celtics in a sweep or 5. I didn't do that because I knew there would be one game that they would screw around. That's tonight. And then you have to bet on one game where, Donovan Mitchell is just a superhero and just rips your heart out. So I was expecting a 6-game series. And I am not surprised whatsoever that they lost this game tonight. I don't think it impacts the entire series, but it's still disappointing. It's still frustrating. And it's still infuriating to see this team not give what they have to give in certain moments. How about you fight through the adversity? You're not making threes? Play harder. When is that going to happen? Everything else suffers all year long. All right, let's talk about some of the other stuff that we saw tonight. Obviously, again, couldn't throw the ball into the ocean, shot 41% from the field, shot 22.9% from 3. I just threw up in my mouth a little bit. Just awful. And you look at some of these individual quote-unquote performances, not good. Drew Holiday continues to be a bad playoff player. He is a bad postseason player. It's as simple as that. His performances fell incredibly low in Milwaukee when he got to the playoffs. His shooting percentages drop. His efficiency drops. And Holiday is, again, not having a good postseason. He was 2 of 7 tonight from the floor. He finished with 4 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists. He was a minus 21. Holiday was bad. Derek White was bad. It's okay. Derek White gets a pass. Derek White is the reason why that they were able to finish that Miami series as easily as they did. And he's the reason why they were able to cruise in Game 1. In my mind, Derek White gets a pass because he's been tremendous. Tonight, he wasn't good at all. He was bad. 3 for 11, 1 of 8 from 3. He was a minus 27. Bad. Al Horford played 29 minutes, had 2 rebounds. 2 rebounds in 29 minutes from Al Horford. Not good enough. 11 points he finished with. 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 turnover, 1 block. Al, look, I love you, Al. We all love Al. It's tough to ask him to give you 30 minutes at like 37 years old with Porzingis out. I get it. But you got to give us more than 2 rebounds. You just have to. I didn't think Tatum was terrible tonight. I wouldn't even say that Tatum was bad. He's still continuing to struggle shooting the basketball. He was 7 of 17 from the floor, but he did attack more tonight. He did attack, and he finished with 25, 7, and 6, and he only had 1 turnover. So I don't think Tatum was bad. He wasn't very good. Don't get it twisted, but I don't think he was bad. Horford wasn't good. Holiday was bad. White was bad. And Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown. I sang his praises after game 1. I tweeted out at Nick C Radio. You can follow me on X. I tweeted out that Jaylen Brown's game 1 on Tuesday night. Game 1 on Tuesday night was one of Jaylen Brown's best postseason performances of his Celtics career. That was one of the best playoff games that he had ever played. He was incredibly efficient offensively. He did not force the issue. He did not turn the ball over very much. And defensively, his head was on a swivel. He was all over the place. He was challenging screens. He was contesting shots. He was excellent on Tuesday night. Tonight, not so good. Tonight, Brown was bad. 7 of 17 from the floor. He was 0 for 6 from 3. He finished with 19 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist. 1 assist. So Jaylen Brown was bad. 4 out of your starting 5 were bad, if not downright terrible. Again, that's why I don't think we're going to see this again in the series, okay? The Celtics, as long as they stay healthy, confident they win this series. But I'm frustrated by the things we saw tonight because they can't get rid of these bad habits. Brown, again, was forcing it. He was trying to do too much. He was just trying to do too much on too many possessions. He was trying to force the issue. And when he does that, he's not nearly as effective. All right, we continue to truck along here on this postgame. Celtics lose 118-94. Game 2 goes to the Cleveland Cavaliers at the TD Garden. Don't forget to give us that thumbs up. Like while you have a second. Like and subscribe. Rate and review if you're listening to us on demand on Spotify and Apple Pods. Xavier Tillman gave you nothing. 11 minutes, 0 points. Gave you a couple of rebounds. How about that? I mean, Tillman gave you as many rebounds as Horford did, and Tillman played 11 minutes, and Horford played 29. Is there something wrong with this? Yeah. Rebound the ball. Hauser wasn't good defensively. Took 2 shots, 1 of 2. Luke Cornett. Cornett's been really good. He's been great in his role. I've never been a big Cornett guy, but I have given him credit consistently since the All-Star break. He has brought the physicality. He has protected the rim. He has done a good job rebounding. Cornett was bad tonight. There were 2 players who were worth a damn tonight. 2. 2 guys were worth a damn. Tatum and Pritchard. That's it. Everybody else was bad or stunk or were terrible. Simple as that. Tatum and Pritchard were the only guys who you could argue were at least good tonight. Just bad. Bad across the board for so many of these guys. Again, if you're not making shots, okay, but do something. Play defense. Come up with a steal. Grab a rebound. It's just a bunch of nothingness. Brown's decision-making was a complete reversal from game one. I do think Tatum had a little bit of up and down tonight, but again, out of everybody else, he was one of two players that were at least, I would say, good. If you don't like the word good, you can say okay. You can say he was fine. But compared to everybody else, I mean, this thing was it was a 3-ring circus out there tonight. Put the tent over it. That's what it was. Joe Mazzulla. Let's talk about Joe. I thought Joe took a very good timeout early in the third quarter. He tried to get his team going. It worked for a little bit, and then it went off the rails. So I give Joe credit for taking that early timeout in the third when it was obvious his team came out dead. My first question, why does your team come out dead so consistently after halftime? What is going on? Have you tried to change anything at halftime? I don't know the answer to that. But this team consistently comes out in the third like they would rather just go home at the half. Why is that? Here's the thing that drove me nuts about Mazzulla tonight. I thought he should have gone small. And I tweeted this multiple times. The Celtics, I thought, should have gone small during this game, especially when you got to like mid to late third quarter to the early fourth. They should have gone small. Why? I'll tell you why. Because they needed to swarm the perimeter. I don't care how many dunks or layups you give to Evan Mobley or Tristan Thompson. That does not matter to me. You can give up all the layups that you want. You can have a layup line out there for Tristan Thompson and Mobley. Because Cleveland is not going to win. They are not going to beat you with Evan Mobley playing great. Evan Mobley played out of his mind in the first half. The Celtics were bad, and it was still tied at halftime. They should have gone small. They should have attacked the ball handlers consistently. They should have attacked Garland. They should have attacked Donovan Mitchell. They should have attacked Karis LeVert. They should have kept attacking and attacking and attacking. Because if you can create some turnovers, you get into transition that gets you some easy buckets, and now your offense might be rolling a little bit. I thought it was a tactical error to not at least try a small lineup. At least try it. If it doesn't work, oh well, you toss it out. But I thought they should have gone small. Fly around, contest shots, challenge screens, dig at the basketball, be aggressive, take the airspace away, make sure your pickup points are high, all of those things. But they didn't do it. They didn't go small. They just did what they do, and it didn't work. I don't know why they started the fourth quarter with a double big lineup. Can somebody explain that to me? That genius move. Why in the world did you start a double big lineup in the fourth quarter? You are having a horrible time defending Cleveland on the perimeter. You're getting smoked via straight line drives to the bucket and or screen game up top, allowing wide open threes. You're dropping your big guys. You're allowing wide open threes because you're playing drop coverage from time to time. And when you don't play drop coverage, your bigs overreact and allow driving lanes. So why in the world do you come out in the fourth quarter with Xavier Tillman and Al Horford in your five? What in the blue hell? That lineup made 0 sense. I do not get it. I'm sure you didn't get it. I can't tell you why Tillman and Horford were out there to start the fourth freaking quarter. They had to play fast. You have to play with pace. Are you playing with pace with 37-year-old Al Horford and Xavier Tillman? Are you going to play with pace with two of those guys out there at the same time? You lose pace. You lose pressure on the perimeter. You make Cleveland comfortable. It made zero sense to me. Thought it was a bad job coaching. Bad coaching job to start the fourth quarter with Tillman and Horford. I thought it was a bad coaching job to not try to do something different and go small. Okay, Nick, what would you do? I would tell you what I would have done, and I tweeted this out. I would have gone with Pritchard, White, Brown, Tatum, and Horford. That's my five. That's my five. Defensively, I can switch a bunch. Offensively, I can go 5 out. I can go 1 in, 4 out. Pritchard was playing great tonight. Pritchard was one of the only guys who had consistent energy. And for some reason, he played 20 minutes. I thought he should have played 30. Pritchard should have played 25 to 30 minutes tonight. His ass was buzzing. So that's what I would have done. I would have tried that 5. Pritchard, White, Brown, Tatum, Horford. Be aggressive. Go after these guys. If you make a mistake defensively, oh well. But we're trying to take the action to them directly. The best word, again, is swarming. That's what I would have done. I would have had Pritchard's energy out there to go along with Tatum. The two guys that played well tonight, have them on the floor together. Maybe that gets White going. Maybe it gets Brown going. You don't have to rely on Horford. You got 4 offensive players out there that can get the job done. And defensively, now you're smaller and you can adjust quicker and you're not going to get burnt on dribble drives as often. You're not going to play drop coverage with Tatum. But you roll out Tillman and Horford to start the fourth quarter. I mean, that's like waving the white flag. Made no sense. Made no freaking sense. Cornette, Hauser, Tillman, your bench gave you nothing outside of Pritchard. Your bench is supposed to step up when you talk about playing at home in the playoffs. That's the whole idea. On the road, you don't expect your bench to show up big. It's really tough for a bench to get going on the road, usually. So you count on your bench at home to bring that energy. They didn't do it. It was Pritchard and nobody else. Nobody else showed up on the bench. Nobody else in the starting 5 showed up consistently other than Tatum. Meanwhile, LeVert ends up scoring 21. LeVert scored 21, which was the same amount of points as Hauser, Brissett, Cornette, and Pritchard scored you. Karis LeVert canceled out Tillman, Hauser, Brissett, Cornette, and Pritchard all by himself. LeVert scored as many points off the bench as 5 of your bench guys did. Bench invisible. This right here is another crossroads. This is a moment. The Celtics in the first round put themselves in the same position. It's annoying. Irritates the hell out of me. But what they did was they went down to Miami and they played a complete game in Game 3 against the Heat. Game 3 against the Heat was one of the best defensive games that I've seen this team play. They were connected. They were communicating. They were contesting. They were closing out. They were doing all of that. They were on a freaking string defensively, Game 3 in Miami. And now they got to step up again. Now they have to bring the same intensity, urgency, and effort on the road. You cannot get down 2-1 against Cleveland. You cannot do that. This is their moment. This is, again, another crossroads. They have to go to Cleveland on Saturday night, and they have to send a message. They have to play like they're on the brink of elimination. They've got to play like their tuchus is on fire. They have to be ready from the jump and give all 48. And it has to be nonstop. They have to play with pace. They have to move the ball. They have to move themselves. They can't get beat on backdoor cuts. They can't give up easy transition buckets. That's what they need on Saturday night. They need to step up just like they did against Miami and end this. End any thought of momentum for Cleveland. Shut it down. Come out like you're freaking possessed on Saturday night. National television, prime time. This is your chance to shine. This is your chance to tell Cleveland, hey, nice game the other night, but that was an aberration. That was an anomaly. What happened is not going to happen again in this series. We are the better team. We are the more talented team, and we are going to prove that to you, and we are going to beat you into submission. And if we're not making shots early in the game, it doesn't matter. We're not going to stop scratching and clawing and fighting. We are going to continue to punch you in the face defensively. We are not going to stop. We are not going to come out of halftime like the game doesn't count anymore. We're not going to take anything for granted. That's what the Celtics, that's the mentality they need to have on Saturday night. That's the mentality they had game 3 in Miami. Same damn thing on Saturday night. Bring the same kind of energy and the same approach, and you'll be fine. If you bring that on a nightly basis, you will win this series in 5 games. Cleveland will not win another game in this series if you play the right way. If you don't give in or give up. You're more talented. You're the better team. But you've got to play like it. You've got to play with the right intention. You've got to play with purpose. And tonight, we didn't see that. And that's why those fans are booing. Those fans at the TD Garden weren't booing. They weren't booing because the Celtics missed threes. I believe those fans at the Garden tonight were booing because of the lack of effort that we saw at times in the second half. The rebounding plays I discussed earlier, that's why they were booing. The lack of defense at times, that's why they were booing. That's what Boston is. That's what New England is. The least that we expect is effort. We want you to look like you care. We want you to continue to grind it out when not everything is going perfect. And that's why that home crowd was frustrated tonight. And I can't blame them. I can't blame them one bit. Just absolutely predictable. Really. Was anybody shocked? And that's the frustrating part. I wasn't shocked they lost this game. I will say I was a little shocked that they got blown out. If you told me they lost before they played tonight, I'd say, yeah, I buy that. If you told me they lost 118 to 94, they lost by, what is that? My math skills, 26. If you told me they lose by 26 to this Cleveland team at the Garden after what happened to them game 2 against Miami, I would have said no freaking way. But again, I thought the shots, they were not terrible shots. I think a lot of those shots, the rest of this series will go in. Water will find its level. But it is about those times when water is not at the level and how you adapt, how do you adjust, how do you react? Do you continue to play hard? That's what it's about. You can fight through shooting struggles if you're doing everything else, if you're checking all the other boxes. But when you give up some of those boxes because you're not making the shots, that's when this kind of thing happens tonight. Out rebounded by 13, 44 to 31. Have to do a better job on the glass. Need more rebounding from Horford. Need more rebounding from everybody, pretty much. But the Celtics were a minus 13. They had 22 assists on 33 baskets. They did move the ball. I thought the ball got a little more sticky in the second half, but they did move the ball. They were finding the open shooter. Again, they just weren't knocking down the shots. They had to do everything else. They only had 7 turnovers. They gave up 60 points in the paint. So we'll see how they react on Saturday night. I hope that we see a team that is on a mission in Cleveland on Saturday night. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to rate and review. Hopefully you enjoyed this venting session. 118-94 Cavaliers victorious. Series is tied 1-1. Hopefully we see a much better game on Saturday night. I'm back here at 11 a.m. tomorrow morning with some Patriots talk. If you don't want to miss that, like, subscribe, rate, and review. Again, thank you. I appreciate every single one of you for spending some time here on this Thursday night. This has been the Nick Cattle Show.